The next chapter of the Systems 1 Intro to Systems Thinking is regarding, let's see what the chapter is. This is chapter 2. This is stability. And these self-stabilizing feedback loops are, they're basically causal loops. The way we practice this in systems thinking is we identify the elements within a system, and then we connect them together with arrows. When we connect them with arrows, they can have a positive or negative flow, and it'll affect the next part of that loop, and so on and so forth until it gets back to the beginning. We won't know this in the beginning when we start diagramming. We start diagramming in order to figure out what are the connections. We will revise things. We will iterate on things. In user experience design, we will do this to better refine our work. Causal loops and self-sustaining loops, they come in various different ways in various different industries and aspects of life. So I'm going to show you a few of these causal loops because that's what this chapter is all about. It's explaining the various different ways causal loops exist in our reality. One in particular is, it's this, what is it? It's air conditioning, air temperature, furnace, thermostat. That's one. Another one is how temperature is regulated in a system. So you have air conditioner going to the air temperature, going to the thermostat, and the thermostat will identify if it needs to be colder or hotter. So it'll either turn the air conditioner or the furnace, and then it goes into the air temperature control. And this can also be how your body maintains its temperature, because then it'll, like if it gets too hot, it'll start becoming thirsty. There's not enough water in the system, so it looks for, it triggers your thirst receptors, so that way you will seek out some liquid to quench your thirst and thus begin to cool down your body system. And other examples are the float valves, which were, I believe you see them in around Egypt. So the way this works is, let's see. So when water rises on one side, the reservoir, it'll open up, and from the reservoir, it will transfer from one side to the other, right? So you can see kind of this diagram, how that works. This also is a system. Engineering uses a lot of systems, actually. Engineering solutions, they use a lot of systems. And here's the causal loop, or the feedback loop that makes that particular diagram work. And there are so many others here. Let's go into here's that thirst thing I was talking about with your body, right? Water content up and down triggers thirst, and then you intake water. And then here is one for supply and demand. This is a big thing for economics and retail. New supply, demand, inventory, orders. And I love that this book covers so many different examples of this, because in other intro systems thinking books, they just kind of exercise how these loops work, and they'll give some examples, but they'll take one example and it kind of drones on for like a page or two. This one just gives a few paragraphs and it moves on. You'll also see here that it also affects social organizations. Let's see how we get this closer. So you're looking at number of new members, number of members, efforts to recruit new members, and then you have a part here that's number of effort to keep members and the number of members leaving. So it's such a powerful thing to look at these loop diagrams in systems thinking, because it helps you understand if there is a problem and if there's a solution, and the way things are. You can pursue innovation through looking at these loops. a lot of my innovation work with a lot of different places, most who don't even listen to me, but it is the secret sauce of my technique. I will look at markets, I will look at industries, I will look at pre-existing solutions or loops that already exist out in nature or in the natural flow of things. That's why I talk to a lot of people who work in a given place, or I look into the way things work in a given environment, and I leverage what already exists at times because I see the loop, I understand the loop, and then I'll offer it as a solution in something else that has a very similar relationship pattern. Also, like, so another one is the predator and prey. So one of the biggest examples I use to exemplify systems thinking is the usage of the example of the wolves of Yosemite, I believe, or wolves of Yellowstone, where there are farmers or ranchers who eliminated all the wolves in a given population, but all that did was allow all of the deer in the region to populate. And the deer will strip the bark, they will start eating small saplings, and vegetation will start to slowly die over time. And when that happens, it'll affect the way beavers are able to, they're not able to build dams because there's less trees and foliage around. And when the dams are not able to be built, that means waters are not channeled anymore in a particular manner that helps distribute water, and eventually those waters start to dry up. So it starts to destroy the ecology. There has been notes where even the Saharan desert used to be a lush tropical region, even parts of the Nile. But over time, whether it's by heat or human influence, whatever the case is, those ecologies started to die and become that desert. And we could do the same thing to our ecologies, our environments. And that's something that I usually do to teach sustainability and introduce the concept of systems thinking to others in a very dynamic fashion. So the solution with I believe the Yosemite wolves is that they reintroduce the wolves back into the environment, and it slowly starts to repair the environment, which is very fascinating because it makes you think that if predator and prey have a very specific cycle, you can imagine that human influence in any given ecology, or even one European power, like during the colonial era, one culture to another culture, the decimation that occurs when you destroy that cultural ecology and override it, and all the knowledge that is lost because of that invasion, of that overtaking, of believing that you're better than the natives that you're taking over. So another thing is that they touch on is tracking systems. We can talk about the example that I use that is not in this book is when in the World War II, there are planes that have the ability to fire through the propellers, and it makes you wonder, how do they fire through it? Well, it's because they look at the ability to time the bullets passing through the propellers or in between the propellers, so that way it never gets hit. So systems thinking is involved in weapons craft as well. When you're doing something that radical, as in shooting between the propellers, that's constantly active. And other things that you can look at that involve systems thinking are, when it comes to mechanical systems, is cruise control on cars, automatic pilot on a plane, ship stabilizers, governor on a steam engine, relief valve on pressure cooker, a hot pot. Human mechanical systems are like all non-automatic tools and machines. You're looking at vehicles are a system. Writing is a system. Eating is a system. Body thermostat, breathing reflex, blood sugar has a system. A lot of your body itself has a lot of like they have subsystems and loops and feedback loops. You're looking at population and stress. You're looking at, in social systems, you're looking at group membership. You're looking at sports strategy, disaster relief, elections, markets, independent courts, free press. The list goes on and on. And from the last video I mentioned, it was homeostasis. Homeostasis is the way your body balances all of the systems within itself in order to maintain your function and your activity in life. And yeah, that is the good chunk of what chapter 2 is about. It's exemplifying these causal feedback loops. And even though this is introducing it, what I've explained to everyone is, to develop a causal feedback loop, you just got to pick a starting point. and then start building and exploring and researching what is the next step, what is it affecting, and then constantly explore and learn and research through that until at some point you either realize there's more to it or you're eventually able to loop it back to the beginning. And the goal is to find that loop. And sometimes you'll find the loop is just so big, and that's why research and exploration and learning is a core part of systems thinking. It's not just about finding out that there's a system. It's about learning how things work. It's one of the reasons why I'm personally invested in watching and learning a manufacturing process, or how artisans do their craft, like ancient or old-fashioned artisans from Europe or Asia. I have such an appreciation for craftsmanship when it comes to creating manufacturing or art loops, and me just learning more about science and ecology and even the way people live, because people have patterns. If that's something that you're willing to accept, we all have our patterns that loop back into itself. We wouldn't be interested in something that's so finite. There's something that we gain in a loop-like manner. So this doesn't go into creating these feedback loops, but hopefully this gives you an idea on how you would proceed and apply it to your own life and your own thoughts and how you approach things. So with that said, thank you for watching. Look forward to chapter 3 coming soon.